Yo, 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 what's good, YouTube? What's good? This is Stormybman, and I am back. This time, I am here to do a profile. Welcome to the channel for this Saturday evening. This is January the 4th, 2020. And I just thought I would come on and help fill some airspace time. You know, there's not a lot going on this weekend in the sport outside of talk, gossip, and rhetoric. So I thought I would come with something a little bit different. This will be the first time I do something like this, but you know me, I just try to keep things fresh and creative. So this is a show profiling. And profiling personalities from the sport of boxing. So this is what it is. Want to say shout out to the LDBC, brothers and sisters of the community out here, working, grinding, doing their thing. This profile is on my favorite fighter, Evander, the real deal Holyfield. Since I was going to do something like this, why not kick it off with the guy who really had my support from the very first time I saw him fight. And I rode with him up until he decided to extend his career way beyond what I felt would be profitable for himself. It's always hard when you have the greats stay on a little too long. But the thing that keeps them going is the very thing that made them great in the first place. It's having a competitive spirit and a challenging work ethic, you know, where they have to test themselves and go up against the best challenges that life has to offer. And in this case, we're talking about within the sport of boxing. And we have nothing but a history of legendary fighters who have done the same. So he is in good company. I first came to know of the real deal in the '84 Olympics, where he and his teammates, which consisted of the likes of Tyrell Biggs, Meldrick Taylor, Pernell Sweet Pea Whittaker, just to name a few, just, you know, an outstanding team of young fighters who were primed to defeat the Russians, who were being barred from the '84 Olympics. So they really didn't get a chance to go up against those guys. But nobody could doubt the fact that we had a roster of young warriors. D-Lo Boxing, what's going on? Also signed a number of his teammates from the '84 team. Virgil Hill was one who didn't. He went a different route. The silver medalist from the Olympics. Evander could have had gold, but was disqualified for allegedly hitting on a break, which many people thought that was, you know, not true. And he ended up with a bronze that year. But it was the way he handled himself and conducted himself after that disappointing decision that made me take notice of him. I was like, man, that dude is really, he's a, you know, true dude, you know, to not be ranting and raving and cussing and swearing. He held it together. Yeah, D-Lo, that was the Olympics that the Cubans missed. And it would have been very entertaining had they had that opportunity to compete that year. It was one of those things that You know, history can't be undone. So, on November 15th, 1984, after that Summer Olympic, Evander, the real deal Holyfield, turned pro at junior heavyweight. His first bout being a unanimous decision over Lionel Bynum. One note about Evander that he often shared through his career when he was fighting was that he started boxing at the age of 8 years old. And he said that his coach at the time had told him he could one day be heavyweight champion of the world. And at the age of 8, you know, to have someone tell you something like that, you know, a lot of kids can take that as, you know, oh man, that's far-fetched. You know, that's not something I can foresee for myself. How can this person see this in me? But Evander was raised as the kind of kid to have faith and belief in yourself, and also in adults who showed that in you. And that came from his mom, who he spoke fondly, you know, throughout his boxing career. A lot of people even referred to him as a mama's boy, but you know, he was raised in a household of respect, and he respected his mother's words, and he took a lot of solace in his home teaching. And it paid off, because as he went about his career, there were many times ahead that he'd be challenged and would have to put certain lessons in life to test. As he began to run off a string of victories, on July 12th, 1986, he found himself challenging for the WBA World Cruiserweight title against a fighter who many in the light heavyweight and cruiserweight, forgive me, divisions, a lot of fighters avoided. Dwight Braxton, also known as Dwight Muhammad Cowie. Dwight was a bruising man, a fighter who had fought out of the prison system back in the late 70s and early 80s, when they would actually allow fighters who were in prison to be televised in boxing matches. The Camden Buzzsaw, as he was known, was a fire plug of a gentleman who was 5'7", but he had the 71-inch reach. And anyone who knows heights and reaches, you have to understand that he had the reach of a man 6 foot tall or 6'2", as Evander was. They fought a grueling 15-round fight. Okay? And it was one of the last 15-round championship fights, and one of the best. Evander earned a split decision over Cowie. Okay? And as he fought that fight, he lost like somewhere between 12 to 14 pounds of body weight in that fight. It was a grueling match. And what's noted is that That bout took place when Evander was entering just his 12th professional fight. 12th professional fight against a world killer, Dwight Muhammad Qawi. You need to really listen to what I just said. His 12th professional fight. Bear in mind, like today, Vasily Lomachenko, who has been anointed one of the best fighters in the sport of today, even at pound-for-pound consideration, has only 15 professional fights. And he has taken on not one single killer. Okay? Not one. Let that sink in. Not one killer on that record. Not one. Matter of fact, Mr. Lomachenko lost to Orlando Salido within his first 3 fights. So Orlando Salido, he was a fighter who was a journeyman, pretty much. He had fought some decent fights, but he was definitely of the ilk of a fighter in the division who had his ups and downs. By no means a killer. This killer that Evander faced, Dwight Muhammad Qawi, looked at Evander as a kid, a punk. You see, 12 professional fights, and Qawi had taken on the likes of Matthew Saad Muhammad twice, Eddie Davis, Leon Spinks, Leroy Murphy, Ossie Ocasio, Michael Spinks. These were fighters back in that day, guys who came in shape all the time, guys who could go 15 rounds with no problem, guys who would fight on short notice just to earn a living, not because they were itching for a fight, but they needed to feed their families. So the thing about it is, facing a young upstart like Evander was not going to be a major threat to Dwight Muhammad Qawi. But they went 15 rounds, and Holyfield boxed and punched his way to a split decision. He had arrived. His first world title. And now, because he had this success, that original coach he had, who told him that he could one day be heavyweight champion of the world, his words began to ring in Evander's mind, heart, and thoughts, because he had made something come true. A championship. So, after that, he moved on with the TKO over Mike Brothers, a TK over his friend Henry Tillman, who was also on the '84 Olympic team. Now, funny thing about Henry Tillman and Evander, they were very good friends. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we can check this with Scrapbook Boston or possibly Kurt Anderson, a.k.a. Kurt Sugar, two of the brothers who are historians on the channels. Shout out to them both. Evander was Henry Tillman's best man at his wedding. And their fight was after Tillman's wedding. And Evander went on to knock Tillman out. Now, this is for you guys out here today who are currently talking about certain fighters not fighting each other because they're friends and things like this. These two men were teammates in the Olympics and also best men and friend at a wedding, and fought like a week or two later. And one of them got knocked out. So these guys today, man, they need to put their big boy pants on. That's all I'm trying to say. That's all I'm trying to say. You know? It's something to be thought about, you know? And then after that, Evander went on the 15th of May, and he took on Ricky Parkey, another guy who he had close friendship with, and he won the IBF cruiserweight title and retained his WBA cruiser title before taking on and defending those against Ozzy Ocasio a couple months later, moving himself right into a December rematch against Dwight Muhammad Qawi, the man who he had won his original cruiserweight title against. Let me take a moment to acknowledge a couple brothers come into the chat. GG, he says, salute Stormy B-Man and at D-Lo 404 Boxing. Mark Wunderlich is out there. He says, salute Stormy B-Man, my brother, 100 King. Yeah, good to you. Good to see you, Mark Wunderlich. D-Lo says, Salito was better than a journeyman, but Loma didn't know that. I have mixed emotions because I love to say when fighters were fighters, but so many of those fighters ended up financially strapped. Wilder knocked Malik Scott out despite them being like brothers. Yeah, that's what brothers have to do sometimes. If you got a real life brother, when y'all was growing up, did your brother ever have to knock the hell out of you or you knock the hell out of him? It's a part of life, man. It's what happens in life. Don't be afraid to take an ass whooping, because life meets them out from the time you're born to the time you die. But back to this 1987, December 5th matchup between Dwight Muhammad Qawi and Evander Holyfield for what was formerly Muhammad Qawi's WBA title and newly attained IBF title that Evander now possessed. This was the type of fight where it would show either Evander was growing as a champion or if he had plateaued, because he had a couple of defenses and had acquired a couple of other victories in between the fights, all within the same year, mind you. Evander knocked Muhammad Qawi out in 4 rounds. Knockout. Lights out. He was the real deal, people. He was the real deal. All that was left now was to pick up the WBC championship belt, which was in the possession of a 4-time champion, Carlos de Leon. Okay? And Evander faced Carlos de Leon on April 9th, 1988. He stopped De Leon and became the undisputed cruiserweight champion of the world. Mind you, while Evander was putting in all of this work, just a few pounds north at the heavyweight division was the baddest man on the planet, Iron Mike Tyson. Iron Mike was undisputed heavyweight champion. Okay? The baddest man on the planet. Self-proclaimed that, of course. In order to fulfill his dreams, Evander would have to take on Iron Mike Tyson. So, between the fight where he became undisputed champ against Carlos de Leon and July 16th, Evander worked at becoming a heavyweight. He put on a few extra pounds, weighed in at 205, I believe it was. 202, 205, something like that. And he challenged former world contending fighter James Quick Tillis in his first heavyweight bout. Tillis, who was known as the Punching Cowboy, okay? He remarked coming into the fight that Evander was just another little guy coming up to the division of big boys, and that he would be able to help him finish the fight on his back. At that time, Evander was the type of individual, he didn't do a lot of talking, which is amazing because you can't get the guy to shut up nowadays. But during his boxing career, he didn't talk very much. As Quick Tillis said all these things about him and how he was a blown up cruiserweight and all of this. And that seemed to be the moniker for Holyfield, a blown up cruiserweight. When most heavyweights fought from between 2 to 215 primarily. Many guys who were over that were overweight. This was great, man. Watching him grow into heavyweight. He took on Pinklin Thomas in his next fight, a former world champion, a guy who had fought Mike Tyson and many others, and who was going to be a test for Evander because Pinklin was durable as a heavyweight, had a very good jab, but he had some problems outside of the ring with substances and things of that nature, but he wasn't a guy that was going to come and lay down. With only two losses on his record at the time that they faced one another in December of 88, a day before my birthday, Evander stopped Pinklin Thomas. Next was another former world champion in March of 89, Michael Dokes. Now, Dokes was a boxer puncher who had very fast hands, decent heavyweight power, but was really noted for his combinations. He had some outer ring problems as well. But the funny thing about Dokes was, on this night when he faced Evander, he thought he would come out and blazed the trail, set a fast pace that the young former cruiserweight fighter may not be able to keep up with. And as he fought, he hit Evander low, he hit him on the break, he did a lot of dirty things, and Evander just hung in there and fought back. Holyfield in the 10th round stopped Dokes. Okay? Now, at that moment, the heavyweight division began to take notice of Evander Holyfield. Because they were like, man, he's going through these former champions sort of like Iron Mike did. When asked, sitting at ringside at one of Evander's fights, what did he think of Holyfield, Mike Tyson remarked, he's a good fighter. Other fighters, Tyson would make these disparaging remarks and speak kind of condescending, but he was watching Evander. They had a history that went back to the Olympic trials. They had sparred. Holyfield wasn't afraid of Tyson in the least, and they both respected one another's work ethic. Tyson just being, I believe, 4 years younger than Evander, but he became world champion before Evander. While these guys were fighting in the Olympics, Tyson was turning pro in the Catskills. Dilo404 says, R.I.P. to Carlos de Leon. He died on New Year's Day this year, 2020. Yes, sir, Dilo. He said Evander was a man's man. And fight Mike Tyson, Evander? No problem. Where do I sign up? He says. Yeah. There's a reason why I call Evander my favorite fighter, man. Because he had a little bit of everything that you would want a fighter to have when you have a checklist. Was he mobile? Yes. Did he have decent defense? Yes. Did he have decent hand speed? Yes. Did he have decent power? Yes. Did he have a good chin? Yes. Did he have ring IQ? Yes. Was he courageous? Was he the kind of fighter that if a challenge arose, he could try to meet that challenge or overcome? Yes. Intestinal fortitude. Evander had those all checked off on his list. And the only thing that they kept questioning is, could he take a heavyweight punch? But he was not only taking heavyweight punches, he was putting other heavyweights lights out, you know? This is something that people just, you know, as he went about his work, people didn't understand that Evander was indeed the real deal, living up to his nickname. I don't have any mods out here, so D-Lo, I'm sorry I had not done this prior, but I'm making you a mod, my brother. Gigi is out there, Mark Wunderlich is out there, but y'all slipped up on that one. Stormybman must be doing something right because the trolls are starting to come. So, I don't play over here. We just gonna get rid of you. You're not welcome. Take your ass on somewhere. Anyway, after the Michael Dokes victory, Evander saw that there were others who were not necessarily willing to get in there with him. So his next fight in July of '89 had boxing skills. Okay. He was from Brazil. He had a decent power punch where he had knockouts. Okay. Evander fought this gentleman in Reno. I'm sorry, he fought him in Caesar's Tahoe. And he knocked Adelson Rodriguez out in 2 rounds. Boom. Same time, I think Mike Tyson was knocking out the likes of Carl the Truth Williams, fighters like that. So, on to Alex Stewart. Now, Stewart fought Evander in a grueling fight where he landed some awesome, hellacious punches on Evander. And Alex Stewart was undefeated at the time. Alex Stewart was 24-0. I think he had something like 20 knockouts or 22 knockouts, something like that. Evander opened up a severe cut around his eye, and the fight was stopped as a TKO. But Evander was winning, and he was ahead on the scorecards. This fight put Evander in the position to be the #1 contender for Mike Tyson's title. And so now all he had to do was wait for his title shot. He took a stay busy fight in June of 1990 against Seamus McDonough, who was like 19-1, and Evander knocked Seamus out in 2 or 3 rounds. It was easy work, stay busy work. And you know, he was next gonna face Buster Douglas, who had knocked Mike Tyson out in February of 1990. You know what's funny? Evander just gave you guys keep coming back here, you're going to keep getting blocked. Fuck you, I know who you are, but you ain't welcome here. And you're a punk ass for trying to come up under all these fake accounts. Stay off of my channel. One minute. To my mods out there and to my brothers out there that are listening to this channel, these guys are former LDBC people coming out here doing this in the chat. I'm just putting it out there so you'll know what's going on. They not welcome. On site, shoot that shot. On site. On site. As I was saying, when Evander faced James Buster Douglas in 1990, October 25th, it was Buster Douglas' first title defense. And Evander, who had been the #1 contender for 2 years, was finally put in a position to fulfill his dreams that he was told since he was 8 years old that he could be heavyweight champion of the world. And he did not disappoint. In a 3rd round stoppage over James Buster Douglas, Evander Holyfield had become the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. This fighter, who I had been watching since the Olympics, had done it. He had accomplished his goals, becoming the heavyweight champion. And a lot of people just couldn't see it. They were putting roadblocks up there. They were saying that Mike Tyson would smash him or whatever. He didn't have what it takes to defeat a fighter like Tyson. Well, Tyson didn't have what it takes to hold on to the title. Huh? One second, people. Sorry about that, family. Yeah. But you mods, just keep doing your thing. Keep doing your thing. As you can see, these people ain't got nothing better to do with their lives. We out here doing something constructive. They out here trying to be destructive. But you know what that means. Huh? Crabs in the barrel. But you know what they do to crabs, right? Mm-hmm. Now I forget where I was, but just let it be known that Mike Tyson would soon have more problems on his hands and would not be able to face Evander Holyfield anytime soon, even though that they were scheduled while Evander was champion to fight after Holyfield defeated Buster Douglas. He was not able to meet up with Evander because Tyson would end up going away for a while. The Perfection says Buster got complacent and was still riding high off that Tyson win. He had no idea what he was truly up against with Evander. Also going back, Perfection says, I'm up in here. He says, the real deal is the greatest cruiser of all time and one of the best heavyweights ever. Yep. Omega Red is out there. Salute to you, Omega Red. He says, Holyfield was my favorite fighter when I was a kid. And he said, Perfection says his son has some big shoes to fill. Absolutely. Kurt Anderson is out there. Salute Kurt. He says Evander Holyfield was truly a great fighter. Yes, sir. Omega Red says, damn, people need to get some business about themselves and quit hating on other people. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. D-Lo says, I appreciate the wrench. Just got back to my phone. Perfection says, crabs get cooked. There you go. Teach. Teach. And what you do when you cook them, you smash them, right? With that mallet. But yeah, just this profile of Evander that I'm doing, just speaking about him because he was a man that reflected positive character and everything during his career early on. He had given himself to the sport. Now, we came to learn some things later about him, and maybe infidelity and stuff like that. But as a fighter in the ring, he carried himself with respect and respected other fighters. And he didn't give you a great deal of negativity. You know what I mean? But he was a good fighter, great fighter, who brought the action, and people craved action, and he was on no short supply. Had a true appreciation for him. And as I've only gone up to his victory over Buster Douglas, I will probably come back and do the second part of his career in a future show. But I'll stop that profile up to that point, and we could just have a conversation on what we've discussed so far, because his career was extensive, And in this hour that I'm doing this show, I won't be able to cover the entire career or even get to the good parts yet, because although it was great that he became undisputed cruiserweight champion and he had won the undisputed heavyweight championship, so much more was on the horizon for this gentleman, So much more was on the horizon. So that's something that we can talk about, you know, in another show. D-Lo 404 Boxing says, Holyfield was always going to be all wrong for Iron Mike. Maybe not. You know, there was a time where Mike was a lot better than what he showed when he got out of prison. And it would have been interesting to see that Mike up against that Holyfield, because they were both hungry and in their perpetual youth, and that was one of the reasons. See, Don King was guilty of that with Mike in this fight with Holyfield, that letting it marinate and stuff like that. If Mike had fought Holyfield instead of Buster Douglas, he would have went into that fight stoked up, amped up for that fight. Don King just left it out to dry too long. Because I think he lost to Buster Douglas in 1990. And he beat Spinks in, what was that, 86, 87? So he should have been fighting Holyfield like a year after or 2 years after defeating Spinks. D-Lo says, Bo and Holyfield were my favorite heavyweights growing up. They were awesome fighters, man. They were definitely awesome fighters. Charles D says, what's good, Stormy? Charles D, man, where you been, brother? Where have you been? I've heard people in other chats on other channels saying, where the hell is Charles D? Did them people come and get you, bro? Listen, man. Good to see you, okay? Good to see you, Charles D. Because I, have been wondering that even as early as like a little over a week ago. I was like, damn, I ain't seen Charles D in a minute. Good to see you out here, brother. Good to see you out here. Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens says, salute my people. Salute to you, Reggie. I'm doing a profile, Reggie, if you just joining or you out there listening. Doing a profile on Evander. I'm going to end up having to call this part 1 because Evander's career is such that I could go a little bit longer, maybe even another show lengthwise. So I'll end up just calling this part 1. But yeah, that's what it's about. That's what it's about. So Charles says jail slowed Mike down. I think it did. I think it did more than just slow Mike down. There was some other things going on too. And he said Mike went down for 3 years or so. Yeah, it was 3 years. Charles, Omega Red is saluting Reggie. And Charles D is saying, gated community, brother. I understand. That's why I say them people come for you, man. But that's okay. It's all respect. I ain't, putting you down or going to say nothing negative or whatever. I'm glad to see you back. And welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the chat. Good to see you. Hang around a little bit and I'll get you one of them, those wrenches too. But I want to see you hang around a little bit. Stop getting in trouble. He says, what's the topic, Stormy? Just open the mic, open on Evander? No, this is a profile on Evander because we didn't have any fights this weekend to talk about, and I didn't just want to drag the pond with all the same rhetoric over with the Terrence Crawford talk and Earl Spence talk and AJ talk and all of that, I thought that I would bring something like this to light. And because Evander is my favorite fighter, I opened my first profile on Evander. But I could do profile on other fighters that I'm familiar with too. And just understand that it won't be relegated to guys from the past. It could be guys from the present as well. But especially if they've established a decent body of work, not a work in process. A work in process, I mean work in progress. Listen to me. I'm still a little upset about some things here. A work in progress is unfinished business. The fighters that I can profile are pretty much complete or just at the end of a career. So I think it's a good idea. And I don't think that it's an idea that I can hold to myself. It's like some of the other channels and brothers may want to look into doing something like that because, it's worthy of conversation to acknowledge some people. Some people who've been listening here, if they've been listening since I started, they may have found out some things about Evander that they never knew. And I'm sure as I share more in part 2, there'll be more that I could put out there that people don't know. Good thing about it is this. Part 2 won't just be tomorrow or next weekend. It'll be when we have another little break in the boxing game. And if that doesn't come very soon, it'll be put off for a while. But I just think that it's always good to acknowledge the fighters in the sport who have done something. You know what I mean? And to also introduce new listeners and viewers to some of these fighters. So that's what that's all about. Boxing Conversations with Reggie Owens says, I like these fighters' profile topics. Me too, Reggie. It's a lot similar to what Scrapbook Boxing's channel is all about, except for he will give you entire breakdowns with dates and, photos and this and that. But this is just a conversation, But please, and if you guys haven't had a chance to check out Scrapbook Boxing's channel, please do so. Go over there and subscribe to the brother because he provides a history and a wealth of information on fights, events, dates, and everything. Give you full background on it. Omega Red says, me too, Reggie, that he likes it. Hyphy is out there. Salute, Hyphy, my brother. He says, tapping in before me dip and fall back. Many trolls in here tonight. Kiss my teeth. Here you go, Hyphy. Where you at, Hyphy, with your sniper's rifle, man? Stormy done had to step up and do some killing himself. Huh? It's bad when the king got to get off the throne and go out there and start dealing with the peasants, man. Sucker ass niggas. Anyway. D-Lo 404 Boxing says, peace to the chat. He's out. Thanks for stopping by and keeping me supported there, D-Lo. I appreciate you, brother. Won't forget that. Appreciate you. But yeah, I think that that's going to be it for me for this first edition of Profile featuring Evander Holyfield, Part 1. I'll give you brothers and sisters a chance to go out and do some other things, including go to sleep, get busy, whatever you got on your horizon. But Stormybman just wanted to come out here, provide you with some more content, get some more exercise in for myself as far as being on the mic and presenting and talking to an audience. Hey, that's Supreme Beast Boxing Talk. What's going on with you? He says, salute, OG. What's happening with you? Hey, Supreme Beast. This show was a kind of a time filler this evening because we didn't have much boxing talk this evening. And I decided to do a profile on Evander Holyfield. And we're calling it Profile Evander Holyfield Part 1 because we covered from when he left the Olympics to winning the heavyweight championship from Buster Douglas. So we still got a lot more road ahead to cover for Evander. That's what I'll be doing the next time I get to do the next profile. Mahari Nation Sports Podcast says, what's Stormy B, man? What's good? Yeah, Abel, what's good with you, brother? Got a chance to listen in. I was in most of your stream today, and I did, leave some comments. I appreciate the positive things that you said about me, brother. I appreciate that. And, again, I wanted to show some support to you as well. Congratulations on them 400 subs. We are truly a community out here. Perfection says, Stormy be raising up like Bumpy Johnson. Yeah, man, let me tell you something. I'm a laid back dude, but please don't get it twisted, man. Please don't get it twisted, because I am not here to be messed with. Not at all. And I treat people with respect out here. So it's like all that disrespect, bringing it to my channel, it ain't welcome here, homie. Mahari Nation Sports Podcast says, my favorite Evander Holyfield moment was round 10 of Riddick Bowl 1. Great moment. Yeah, and I'll be covering that in the next segment. He says, Holyfield always came to fight every night. Great warrior. Not only a great warrior, but a great champion. He represented, you didn't hear about Evander till it was time for him to fight again. And I like that. You heard about Mike Tyson all the time, and I think Mike became a camera whore. He liked to be in front of the cameras and stuff, and he appreciated some of that drama more than he appreciated fighting. He began to develop that, and it hurt him in the end. He's still a camera whore. Look at him. What he doing right now? Huh? Only thing now is he's sitting back smoking weed and everything, and it's okay, right? They was trying to put him in jail for weed in the 80s. Anyway, I want to say I appreciate everybody stopping by this evening. If you didn't catch the show from the beginning, please go back and catch it from the beginning, because this was very good talk on Evander Holyfield, and I have more information to share, and I have more subjects to do profiles on in the future. But this is kind of like what I'm trying to do is spark the idea of what we can do as a community instead of just feeding the same thing down the pipe all the time. Okay, boxing is a wonderful sport. There are wonderful personalities, weird personalities, just like weird MFs in this chat, and they're out there. But that doesn't mean that has to be the end all. You know what I mean? The universe opens up and we can sail straight through there, representing the proper way. But yeah, that's what I got for you guys this evening. Go back, catch this from the beginning. Catch it on archive if you didn't tune in this evening. And also, Supreme Beast Boxing Talk. If you could drop me an email at stormybman@gmail.com. I'd like to talk to you behind the scenes. I got a couple messages for you. Some good stuff, some good ideas I want to share with you. CB Sports TV is out there. It says, salute Stormy B, man. What's good with you, CB? Good to see you, man. This was a profile on Evander Holyfield, part 1. We're going to be shutting it down in just a moment. So if you didn't catch it from the beginning, brother, please go back to the beginning and catch it on archive. And don't forget to hit the like button for me, man. Trying to bring out really good content for you brothers and sisters out here. Talking up the good stuff, the good side of boxing. So that's about it I got for you guys this evening. Stormy B, man, gonna go ahead and check out and look for the second part of this. You know what I mean? And we'll resume, and we'll have other fighters that we'll profile as well. So that's it. I'm gonna be out of here. Shout out to the LDBC. Peace to all you brothers and sisters out there, and fuck them damn trolls.
Bye.